What's going on, guys? So glad you're tuning into No Rain, No Rainbows podcast. I'm your host, Ted Phaeton, and if you're joining us for the first time, first and foremost, thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to this podcast. Just to give you guys a rundown on what we talk about here with No Rain, No Rainbows. Everybody wants the sunshine, but they don't want the rain, but you can't get the pleasure without a little pain. And what we tackle here is the trials and tribulations, the hard times that we all go through in life, and we have to go through those hard times to reach those ambitious goals that we set for ourselves and even some of those goals that we set for others. And what I like to do with this podcast is talk to some people that I respect and I see as mentors and I see as motivators and inspirers out there. And I just think their story can resonate and help anybody that's going through some dark times in their lives, anyone that's going through a storm cloud. Hopefully the stories that you listen to on this podcast can help you through that and get to your sunshine and your rainbows. Joining us today, Charles Russ, serial entrepreneur, owner of R-Axis Financial's personal advisor, owner of Catalyst Gym, co-owner of Catalyst Gym, and many other ventures. Charles, man, how you doing?
Doing good, Teddy. Doing good. Hey, I'm glad to get out here with you today, man. First time on new equipment. Looks great, brother.
I appreciate it. And we worked really hard to get this new equipment. Shout out to Matt Snipes, who let us use his equipment for a while and finally got independent. Matt, sorry I was bugging you for so long, but now I'm a grown man. But Charles, let's talk about you. Anybody that follows me on social media probably sees you a lot, tagged a lot. We spend a lot of time together. Since I came to Greenville, you kind of took me under your wing, and you've been like a big brother, mentor, and a business advisor for me for quite some time. And I know a lot about you, but there's a lot of folks listening who might not know the backstory of Charles. So quick five-minute resume on who you are and what you do right now.
Okay, well, I was born in Indianapolis, Indiana. We moved here when I was around 6. Was raised here, so I guess you could say I'm really from Greenville, South Carolina, actually from Taylor's. Then I went off to college, went to West Point, stayed there 4 years. And then once you finish up at the military academy, you have to do a military commitment. So I actually did 7 years active duty, a couple deployments, and all my active duty time was over in Germany. So when I got out, I decided to stay there, stayed about another 5 years, and then I felt like it was time to come home. So I came home. Been back about 5 years since then, right now, and I'm running my own. Once I got out of the military, I opened R-Axis Financial Planning and Investments. It's my own financial advisory firm, dealing with one-on-one with people or small businesses, 401ks, and also doing financial consulting. And then recently, last year, I opened up Catalyst Gym. I've always been into fitness. It's kind of my passion on the side, so it allows me to give people a place where they can come and feel comfortable when they're working out, and also a place where we have some great trainers, great people working there, a place to network, a place where it's not just you go there, so it's not just a place to work out. You almost really call it home.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot of things in that story I'd like to dissect, but first and foremost, thank you for your service, man. Probably don't tell you that enough. Appreciate it. And just going back to being from South Carolina, Indianapolis, talk about growing up in grade school, high school. What are some of the challenges you remember in your adolescence? Because I think adolescence it's a tough time for a lot of us. I think a lot of us, if we look back towards high school, there's few kids who were, the it factor, the popular ones. But then there were others who might have struggled either through social anxiety or finding their fit. Because you're growing and you're finding out who you are. What were your high school days like? What kind of challenges do you remember from that?
Well, starting out in high school was a little challenging. I was a smaller guy, had big, thick glasses, and I was kind of a nerd, I guess you would say. Like I made good grades. I was in honors classes, and weirdly enough, as I'm sure everybody's heard a story similar to that, people kind of looked at you differently for that. They're like, oh, why is he always worried about his work? Why is he doing his homework? Little nerdy guy. But luckily, I was an athlete. I did play sports. I wrestled, all 4 years of high school, played soccer. And so that kind of got me a bye, whereas other kids in my situation may not have gotten that bye. I got to be cool, if you don't have another term for it, even though I was kind of a nerdy kid. And I grew up rather quickly, though, in high school. After my freshman year, transitioned to contacts and grew a couple inches, and all of a sudden I wasn't a little nerdy guy anymore.
Where did your focus on your work come from? Where did that drive and that, I guess, that care come from?
At that point, honestly, I didn't know. I knew I wanted to be everyone's image of success, and like I said, everyone else's image of success. To me, that image was always portrayed to me as good grades, being a good athlete, and the way that I found that that worked for me was to work at it. I mean, to do my homework, to put in extra time when it came to my athletics. That's where I found success. That's where I found that definition of success. That's what drove that home to me. And I guess there was a level of, and still to this day, a level of not wanting to disappoint others.
So do you think, because I mean, in high school, I think we're all about where our social status is. Do you think you cared what other people think? And does that kind of translate into today still?
I've never really cared that much about what other people thought about what I was doing. I can honestly say that I thought about, was it what I wanted to do, and was it right?
Mm-hmm.
I can say that's always been one of my strengths. I don't care from the way I dress, and there's always some influence. There's cultural influences, the music we listen to, what's going on TV. But once I decide what I want to do, and this is what I like, this is the way I want to look, these are the people that I want to hang out with, from the friends I selected in high school, I wanted to be a popular kid, but I would say I always had a friend or a couple friends who may not have been the ones that were thought of as, oh, he's massively popular. But that never mattered to me because I saw who they were. I saw how we interacted, things like that, and I think that's carried over into who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
That you see me out, some people would call it slightly flamboyant, but it's just who I am. If I see something, I like it.
Well, there's an air of confidence around you, right? And a lot of people can mistake confidence and arrogance, call it what they want. Let's fast forward into college now. Why West Point? And I do want to address the confidence thing in a little bit, but why West Point?
The honest story of West Point?
Yeah.
Because my grandmother told me I was going. I didn't do the regular process. I tell people that story and they look at me kind of weirdly, but it's a fact. Senior year, I didn't really know what I was doing at all. Nobody in my family had gotten scholarships college. I just kind of assumed, I got these good grades. I'm doing honors this, I'm doing all honors that. I'm an athlete, I'm state champ. Somebody's going to call me.
Mm-hmm.
I never got that call until about April of my senior year. And coach from West Point called. He was like, hey, from the military academy, we can get you in if you want to come. And I'm like, well, wait, the military academy? What's that? Is that like the Army? He's like, well, after you go, you have to commit. And I said, no, thank you. And got off the phone very quickly. He called back and spoke with my grandmother. And she said, you're going. And the process started.
Can't tell grandma no.
No, can't tell her no. And, they, as a family, they wanted what was best for me. And I can honestly say that 100% was what was best for me. I don't think at that point in my life I would have done well at regular college. I was a little bit too social at that point. I'll say that. I was into partying. I wanted to have a good time. That would not have correlated well with me having full freedom at that point in my life. So going to West Point was definitely the structure that someone like I needed to move forward and get to where I am now.
Yeah. So from then until now, what was the biggest challenge Charles Russ had to face? Like, when you stop and you see where you are, what do you look back and you're like, I overcame that, so I can take whatever else comes forward?
If you want me to be honest with you, I've been pretty blessed my whole life as far as struggles, strife, things like that. One of my biggest pains, which has also been a blessing, is I would even say until recently is like living up to the expectations of others.
Mm-hmm.
There was all this. It's always pressure. It's always pressure. It's always this is what they expect. This is who they expect you to be. This is who they want to see. So you need to give them a glimpse of that person all the time. And yeah, I still do my own thing, but in the back of your head, there's always that little inkling of you can't let this person down, or what if this person needs this from you, or what if this you need to be able to handle that. So honestly, that was that's kind of been my mantra. It's don't let anybody down. Represent your family well.
I was going to ask, where does that pressure come from? Is that kind of an intrinsic pressure that you put on yourself, or do you feel it from somebody else around you?
Well, one great thing about what we've all been doing recently with self-growth and being introspective and looking, when I went on my search for my motivation, like what is it? Oddly enough, it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. That is my motivation. The reason I do that, it's my little story. And that's my reason. That's my daily reason for doing what I do, for never wanting to let people down. And it's not a pressure to me. It's a motivation. And the reason I don't want to let them down is because I see what they did for me. Mm-hmm. I've seen it. So once you've seen that, you can build an internal source of motivation because it's always there.
Yeah.
It's not a hype speech 5 minutes before a game, which might not even get you through the first quarter. It's there. It's day in, day out. And once you learn to tap into that, it's an ultimate source. If I had to give you my dark moment, I would say, so I was in Germany for 9 years, had a very long relationship, great relationship with a young lady, and when it came time for me to come back, she couldn't make the move. I mean, she had her own business. Her family had some things going on, and she couldn't make the move. So, unfortunately for us, I came back here, and I started dating my high school girlfriend. And, and everything, I thought everything was going great. She had breast cancer. She had breast cancer before, and she went into, when we started talking, and they said she was in full remission. And, I went to the doctor, and everything seemed great. And then all of a sudden it came back, and she went downhill very fast, and she passed away. So, and everyone I'm sure has had people pass away in their life. But that threw me into a pretty dark period. I'm a religious guy. I was actually can say out loud that I was like angry with God. Like I was angry. It's like, why would you take me out of a 8-year relationship, bring me here, put me in this relationship just to do this? It's like I wanted an answer. I wanted a why. Mm-hmm. I got a little heavy on my partying. Really wasn't. I wasn't being myself. And one day I shook out of it. I figured out the why, and it's been pretty good sailing ever since.
What was that switch for you? What was that shake out of it? Was it something that happened? Was it kind of just looking in the mirror, or did you kind of just make that decision? And if you just made that decision one day, what was that catalyst, pun intended?
Honestly, man, it was a look in the mirror. It was a Monday. Mm-hmm. I woke up late, didn't work that morning, and I looked in the mirror and I was like, man, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Started making, being more consistent with my goings on at church and just in listening and reading, you start to figure out, like, it's not always about just you. Like, I looked at that period of my life, and the things that I was doing weren't for me. They were for her and her family because they needed me to do things at that time, even if it was just help them move some furniture or help her out so she could have time with her kids or whatever. It wasn't for me. So that wasn't that shouldn't have been my thought process. Mm-hmm. When it was over. And once I got past that and I started learning that, and actually I kind of got to write that story up for the Cancer Survivors Park. Never been. It's pretty awesome. It's one of the stories in the Cancer Survivors Park. So once I realized like there's other reasons for doing things other than just you and what you want in that moment and what you think should happen. There's other reasons things happen. You got to be a vessel, man, and allow yourself to be used.
So we're a little bit more than halfway through the podcast right now. I think we've gotten enough of the storm, right? Enough of the rain. Let's talk about the rainbows. Coming out of that, moving forward, what are some of the lessons other than, it's more than just you? What are some of the lessons and some of the principles you're taking right now that have kind of helped you reach the current success that you're experiencing?
And you said it exactly right. Current success that I'm reaching, because one thing is I'm still growing, man. I'm not there by any means. I'm still learning, still figuring it out. But one thing I will say is motivation. And by definition, motivation is kind of fleeting. It's this little thing that happens for a moment. But when you find what we'll just call extended motivation, when you find a reason to do it every day, and you can channel that, that is essential for success, because it will drive you to all the other things you need to do. Habits. You hear people talk about habits. I'm instituting new habits weekly. Something doesn't work, I get rid of it and let's try something else. Habits that ultimately will reach a goal. So just finding those new habits, really making goals for myself, and all goals are not financial, but really making goals for the person that I want to be, the person that I'm striving to be, the person that I think I should be. Making my goals, all going towards being that person, and then designing habits that are gonna help me reach those goals.
Now, helping this be a little bit applicable to our listeners, anybody that's kind of listening in the car, maybe they're cleaning their house right now, how can they take those habits, prolong their motivation? How can they kind of get into the groove of improving themselves and eventually reaching out and accomplishing their goals, whatever they might be?
The funny part is when I talk to people, because I do a little coaching and mentoring, the funniest thing is most people don't know what they want. They think they do. I want to be rich. Okay, what's that mean? What does it mean? Is it a number? Is it a family goal? What is rich? What is rich to you? What does that really mean? Because maybe, because if it's just monetary, you're never going to have enough. That never ends. You never get to a place where you're happy. But if you can define what you want out of life, what will make you happy? And it may be several things. It may be, 4 or 5 things that you really want to push to. So defining those is the first thing. And then when you start to look for your motivation, finding something that's internal. External motivation is great. I love E.T. Love E.T. Man, he will get you going.
Quick.
Going. But how long does that last?
Not long.
So when you find your source of motivation that you can tap into repeatedly, day after day, time after time, when you're down, when you're slow, when you can't move, when you find that thing that you can tap into, and it's there, we all have one, and it's not the same for everybody, but we all have one. So when you find it, build your habits, build habits that take you back to it. Like, what do I do that reminds me of my motivation that's always there? And then hopefully that motivation will be something that'll give you the push to do all those things that you want to do during the day. I need to send 20 emails. If that's a habit, I don't want to do it. Find something that's going to bring you back to that moment of motivation and drive you to do it.
All right, so let's start wrapping it up a little bit and kind of just address the future goals. What's next for Charles Russ? How many more businesses are we going to be opening up in this year?
Well, we have a little project we're working on,
Yeah.
so hopefully that'll come to fruition soon. I really just want to expand my walk in the financial realm, as far as being able to help others even in different ways. The financial world's always been like the goal of. It's always been the realm of the rich, real estate, all that stuff. Got to have money to make money. So how can we expand and help those with a little bit of money do the things that people with a lot of money are doing? Be it pooling money, be it putting investment opportunities together for the average person, who is just as hardworking as the 1%. So if I can start to do that in different ways, and there's so many ways to do it. So I don't really know if I'll be stepping outside the financial realm. There's also hopefully some potential to expand Catalyst and offer more services there, make it a larger facility. We're looking into that. So just growing what I have, and spending a lot of time with my boys right now. They're in them high school years, man. So just making sure they stay on track, and that's about it, man. I can't give away too much, man. I got to figure it out.
Okay. And last question, I guess, would be, what would you define as your rainbow? What is it you're pushing through the storm for?
Man, and that's my 5 and 20 story, man. You know, it's all about you know, it's all about I lived with my grandparents, and the look that I get, people say, "Oh man," they look at it like it was something bad or negative. No, man, that was a blessing. But I do feel like, and I will forever be indebted to them for what they've done for me. And I could never embarrass that or shame that or not live up to the expectation of that, because I've seen what they did with so little. So how could I not do more with so much?
All right. Love it, man. Charles, always a pleasure. Anybody listening that made it to the end, thank you so much for your time. The main takeaway I get from Charles's story, maybe you got it too, was you got to live life for others, not just yourself. And it's not about caring what others think. It's about putting the responsibility on yourself to be the best version you can be, because you have to kind of be that beacon of light for the others around you. Don't let the people around you down. So again, just be relentless on your self-discipline and continue to grow and reach out for your goals. Love Charles's story, and again, pushing through that rain to get to your sunshine. Everybody wants the sunshine, but they don't want the rain, but you can't get the pleasure without a little pain. Let's grow.